Harry Feudale, The Flying Judge. Combination of things. According to what my mom said in my baby book, one of my earlier awards was airplane. Then when I was around 11 or 12, I had a bicycle and I rode it down to the airport, unbeknownst to my mom and dad, and was able to talk my way into a free airplane ride from the manager there. Then actually also when I was younger, I put models together, model airplanes. And the last thing was, and the most important, was when I was in the Navy and stationed off the coast of Vietnam during the Vietnam War. I was a weather briefer, an orographer's mate, and I briefed pilots on weather before they flew their missions into harm's way. And I was fascinated. I got the opportunity to be on the deck of the aircraft carrier, be able to brief pilots, and that was probably the most important thing. Well, as you know, I was elected judge in 1987. I decided after 10 years that I no longer wanted to just be a judge just in Northumberland County. I wasn't challenged. And I decided that I was interested in doing senior judging, which usually means traveling around the state. So I decided to get my pilot's license finally, and I did that within about 9 months. I passed my test. Again, looking over my shoulder to the left, that's a portrait, a hand-drawn portrait. It was a murder trial. I was a very young lawyer handling a murder case, high profile. I went to law school late in life. I was in my 30s. My classmates called me Gramps, to my chagrin. But anyway, I saw the importance of the role of a judge in that trial. It was a death penalty case, and I thought, well, I felt like maybe I could accomplish something like that later in life. And just a few years after that, I ran for judge in 1987 and was the youngest judge, I think, ever elected in Pennsylvania at the time. Well, reading, something I did not do much of. The only book I kept from high school was Profiles in Courage by John F. Kennedy. I still have it. The pages are falling out and yellowed. But reading came to me in the Navy, especially when I was off the coast of Vietnam, 12 hours on, 12 hours off. I literally read many of the books in that small library and had a greater appreciation for being able to learn about the world, which I had very little interest in prior to that. Well, I got certified as a scuba diver years before I even became a pilot. I'm an open water diver and I've dove all over the world. Never more than 80, 90 feet. I'm not certified for deep dives, but I'm a mountaineer. I've climbed mountains all over the world, in the Andes, in the Himalayas. One mountain too many, where I suffer some serious consequences. I've been a motorcyclist all my life. I'm a proud owner of a 1993 Harley Davidson. I still ride that regularly. I enjoy caving. I've tried skydiving. I've skydove about 5 times, and I got to travel around the world. I've literally traveled to every continent but Antarctica. The Sandusky case was one of our earlier investigations. Of course, it involved Sandusky, Joe Paterno, Graham Spanier, and a few others. And of course, he perpetrated and sexually assaulted young boys using a organization that he had formed to recruit these young boys. And Mr. Sandusky was indicted, convicted, got sentenced to 30 to 60 years in prison. Mr. Spanier was indicted and convicted, but his conviction is on appeal. Joe Paterno was never charged. He did the minimum of what he had to do in order to avoid that type of thing. And as you know, when I was, well, maybe not, I was a child welfare caseworker and I investigated child abuse cases. As a child welfare solicitor lawyer after I got out of law school, I prosecuted civilly child abuse cases. So it was something that I was very passionate about, and I guess it kind of would be my 15 minutes of fame that I presided over the grand jury. But really the grand jury is the one that did the work, and the prosecutors in the Attorney General's office did the work. Yes, it was the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, a Democrat, the first woman Democrat elected. That actually pleased me initially, believing that women can do the same work as any men. But it turned out that the expectations that the public and all of us in law enforcement had of her was not met. She was, in my view, one of the most corrupt politicians I've ever had been involved with. She and I conflicted over the Sandusky case, actually the prosecution of Graham Spanier, and a few other things that I won't get into because of grand jury secrecy. As you well know, as you could assert and testify to, I got taken down. I got taken down hard. I lost faith in the system. I had lots of evidence to support the acts of omission and commission that she committed crimes. But because she was a powerful figure and being discussed as a possible, governor or maybe even vice president of the United States, because of some positions she had taken with regard to important issues that I actually supported, she had a better hearing than I did. The Chief Justice initially sided with her. He has since apologized and has realized that he made a mistake. But I got depressed. I was depressed, and contemporaneous to that, I had an incident on the mountain in Peru where I had hypoxia and pulmonary and cerebral edema, and it affected me cognitively for at least 1 to 2 years. Contemporaneous to that, being taken down as a grand jury judge, I also divorced your mother, and that was a very sad and difficult experience. So a combination of those things impacted me cognitively and emotionally, and I was not the measure of the man that I thought I was. I took myself out of the game also with regard to flying, mainly because of the incident on the mountain. So I took myself out of the game, and I missed it immensely. I decided that it was good for my mental health. I began to meditate again. I began to get my health back and exercise, and I decided that flying would be therapeutic, and it proved to be very therapeutic, and I just love it. I mean, of all the things I've learned to do, Michael, in life, it gives me the most pleasure.